Welcome back to the neighborhood, boys and girls. Our next guest is Sarah Hesski from Compass Realty.
Yes.
Nice. Welcome to the neighborhood, Sarah.
So good to see you.
Glad to have you here. So I always do things differently than most people. There's a lot of people that do interviews that do tons and tons of research and find out everything. I like to do it the other way around. I like to find out stuff as we're going along, and I love for my reaction and my questions to be what I would be if I was watching the interview, you know?
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the before real estate Sarah, we talk about the present Sarah, we talk about the future Sarah, and we talk about your goals. So I love starting with the story, the journey. How did you wind your way through life to get to this point today? What was your pre-real estate life like first?
I would say I've always been in sales. My very first job, I don't know if people remember this, I'm aging myself, but I worked for Strawbridge's at the makeup counter when I first started out, and was immediately drawn to things that helped clients and helped people. Even doing somebody's wedding makeup is solving a problem. So
sure.
As little as it may seem to be. So I've always been in that, and then I ended up going to school I went to Rutgers School of Business in Camden, and got my bachelor's there. Lived in Philly for a little while. I call myself a Jerseydelphian. So born in Philly, raised in South Jersey, back to Philadelphia. And then in 2015, my husband and I moved to the Virgin Islands for a little while. So I guess I'm a Saint Jerseydelphian at this point.
That is awesome.
This point. And then moved back in 2021 and bought my childhood house in Gloucester County, Washington Township. So
nice.
That's kind of where we're at.
How did you guys pick the Virgin Islands? What was it just let me pick the nicest, most awesome beach place we can go to, or was there a backstory to that?
So I had never been.
Okay.
I remember we landed in the Virgin Islands and people were driving on the left side of the road, and I was like, I should have asked more questions. Why are we in an American territory?
You moved without being there ever?
No, I had never been. My husband had been once. We had friends that had lived there previously, but I had never visited, never lived there. We had just kind of decided we wanted to change it up. We were living in Philly, married a couple years, renting. So I was kind of tired of what I was doing. He was a teacher in Philadelphia at the time, ready to kind of step away from that.
Sure, Virgin Islands would come.
So we were like, let's figure out where we want to go. We wanted to really jump without a net and not have a plan. So we didn't have jobs, car, apartment, anything. And we kind of took a month each and researched where we'd want to go. The Virgin Islands still speaks English. They still use the dollar. It's still the United States. It was just too hard to kind of make that jump to somewhere international where we don't know the language and all that kind of stuff. So it was still the United States. And him having had been there before, he was like, listen, I think we could really make this work. So we had an Airbnb for 2 weeks.
Okay.
We packed a bag each and our pets. We were if we don't like it, we'll stay 6 months. And nobody will know why we failed or why we came back.
That's awesome.
But, had an Airbnb for a week. Then it's okay, let's get an apartment. Got an apartment. It's let's get a job. Got a job. Let's find a car. Just kind of that snowball effect. And it's the kind of place where if you're not meant to be there, it's going to chew you up and spit you out in 2 months.
Okay.
If you're supposed to be there, we ended up staying for 6 years.
Right.
So it was good to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you came back pre-COVID, during COVID?
So we were going to come back 2020.
Okay.
And then worldwide pandemic hit. Nobody would probably say to leave a job at the moment.
Right.
So I was working in hospitality. I was selling try it before you buy it timeshare vacation packages kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he was with Merrill Lynch. He's in banking now.
Okay.
So we both did major career upgrades while we were there. It's the kind of place, if you're from the Northeast and you have a little bit of hustle, you're going to look like a superstar.
Yeah, because
everybody's on island time.
Yeah. Laid back.
Yeah,
hey, don't
everybody's
worry
on
about
island time. So we were going to come back 2020. The pandemic hit. We were like, let's ride this out. And then we kind of postponed that, and it ended up being 2021.
Nice. And you went immediately into real estate from there, or did you have a couple pit stops at career type jobs?
I've always prided myself on taking advice, and I have a really great friend that's an agent in Philly that also had a strong hospitality background, and she was like, I think you should do this. I absolutely think you could be an agent. And I had another friend that I sold makeup with that had joined a team and had sold 10 homes her first year, which seemed like a lot to me. I was like, she must have quit her job. 10 houses seems like a lot.
Right.
So I was like, let me just reach out to her once I passed my test. I was like, listen, I really need somewhere where I'm going to find inspiration, and I can't learn everything at once, because being a realtor, you're wearing 65 hats at once. So I ended up joining this team, and it ended up being the perfect Molotov cocktail of kind of like timeshare. Like it was quick. Like we're talking 2021 market.
Right.
So it's like getting in front of a buyer, find them the right one, find them the fit. You're up against 30 offers, win it.
Yeah, really, that's the way it was. It was crazy how quick it happened because I've been doing it for like 20 years and there's ups and downs, and a lot of the newer people are like, well, what happens when it gets slow? I'm like, it's going to get slow. Don't worry. That's the way it works. But it had never, at least in my experience, there was never that super sharp acceleration. There was like 2004 and 2005, it was like a slow acceleration. It was steady, but that COVID was like, we're here, boom, we're here. In a month it went from 2 people at an open house to 2 lines of people around the corner at open houses.
Yeah.
So how did you handle that as a new agent? Like, how did you navigate those waters?
It was kind of perfect for me because I went from like yes or no in 90 minutes to like, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can wait for a 30-day process. Honestly, it was, but that's the climate that I walked into was the fastest real estate climate like that we had really had to date. To my, completely ignorant self about it. I had no idea I was walking into this perfect situation for what I was coming from. Because timeshare is all about like find the motivation.
Right.
This was all like everybody's motivated.
Yeah,
rates are 2.3%. Everyone's motivated.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think for me, it was a perfect climate to step into. I know it could be overwhelming, maybe for agents that aren't used to moving that quickly, but for someone and also I was coming from a place where I'm married but no children.
Right.
I'm basically like a bachelorette scenario. I've worked like 40, 50, 60 hours a week. I loved it. I was like, oh, I can help so many people all at once. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so from a sales perspective, is it a different structure for you? Like, I'm sure timeshare is a little bit more maybe not 9 to 5-ish, but kind of like window blocks of time. To real estate is like, it could be 5 o'clock in the morning, it could be 11 o'clock at night. There's 0 time constraints. So how did you put your boundaries in, and how did you establish your do's and don'ts as far as that goes for personal wellness and so you don't work 97 hours a week?
Well, honestly, not well in the beginning.
Okay, that's great.
I will absolutely admit, I was like, it's very nice to be in a structured 9 to 5, don't get me wrong. This is like rewarding times 10, right? Because I could never sell timeshare because I didn't believe in it. But I would sell like the try it before you buy it. Like, come stay once, great discounted package. You sit through a meeting, you never have to come again kind of thing. It was low commitment to the biggest commitment people are making in their life. And I think that for me, clicking that like validated the time spent and the time necessary. I had a really great mentor at the time that was like, listen, you got to start time blocking your stuff, because if not, you're going to be like, you allow so much access to yourself.
Sure.
And if not, you're just going to burn out really quickly.
Yeah.
So I'll say the first year I ran around like a nut job. Like, I ran around like a crazy girl. And the second year I got so much more efficient.
Nice.
But I also got pregnant. So
yeah, you got to be a little more efficient.
I don't know if, chicken or the egg with that.
And do you find yourself gravitating more towards buyers, more towards sellers, even distribution?
I've worked with both.
Okay.
I'll say like stepping into that 2021 market, I was very buyer heavy. Of the 39 transactions I did my first year, I want to say 35 were buyers.
Okay.
And 3 of those seller sales were sellers that were also buyers.
Right.
So I love working with buyers. I think it's so rewarding to know that you're creating a situation where people are going to purchase something and have firsts and create memories and all of those things. Sellers are amazing to work with too. They're closing and opening chapters of their own. But I really find, especially first-time home buyers, there is nothing like, there's nothing like their gratitude and their appreciativeness once they find the one. And now it's like, all right, we're going to get to work and get it for you.
Yeah. Listen, I don't really deal with sellers, so it doesn't really matter. But I really enjoy working with people that appreciate what you do.
Oh my God.
I don't really care if it's a $100,000 purchase or a $500,000 purchase. There have been transactions where I made a whole lot of money and I couldn't stand the people that I was working with. And there were other times where I made next to nothing, but I loved the person. Especially, I have my mom raised me. My dad was moved when we were young. So single moms or someone who doesn't feel like they could ever buy a house. We fixed our credit up a little bit and they buy, man, that's like... Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something. You're really helping people. You're really getting people in there. And when you can hear somebody tell a story about what they want and then you go find it, like that's a skill.
Right.
You know?
And it's like there's nothing more rewarding than that. Like I have a really special client. She's like my little sister now, but she moved down from New York to like the Burlington County area. And I went to her housewarming party. Like we still talk all the time. She's getting married this year. Like there are those clients that stick with you, you know, and you just know, I mean, she sent me referrals at this point.
Sure.
Like there are just those clients that get in there and you know they're never getting out, you know?
Nice. Now, what about mental health? I really like to touch on that with people because this industry is super stressful. Working, I don't think, if people never worked a 100% commission job before, I don't think people understand the stress of never having a guaranteed paycheck. You know, like when it's good. But there are times, and there's also like, you could lose a transaction and lose a large chunk of money. And how do you handle that stress without decapitating your partner or kicking someone down the steps? So what do you do to keep yourself in? What are some of your life practices to do?
I mean, I think honestly, it's very easy to get pulled in, you know, especially people say it all the time, you know, like people can smell when your motivation is not to help them, right? Like when your motivation is for a paycheck, it shows.
Sure.
So I've been always really trying to come from a place of gratitude for the opportunity to help them. I really think like kind of really tapping into the gratefulness for the client in general is so important. I really am a fan of getting outside. Like,
okay.
I mean, I'm someone that moved to the Virgin Islands.
Right.
Like, I love an outdoor lifestyle.
Now, when you say go outside, do you mean like you want to go on a hike or you want to go rollerblade or any of the above? Like, what are some of your like getting
even
outside?
Just a walk. Like,
okay.
Like even as simple as a walk. Like sometimes, and I don't know if you find this as well, but like screen overload is like just happens in our business because you're in front of computers and then your phone and everything is an app. And sometimes I'm like, man, I just need to get outside for a sec. Like you need the fresh air, you need the walk. Even if it's 15 minutes, like just getting outside, taking a walk is huge. Yeah. I was also I was very holistic based when I lived in the Virgin Islands. It's very granola, like extra crunchy granola.
Right.
So when we were there, we did lots of swims, hikes, like all that kind of stuff. Being in New Jersey is amazing because you have access to so much. Like, you can drive over to the city and like maybe run the WIS or like there's access to everywhere. I really love our location. When we were leaving to move back to New Jersey, someone was like, "Oh, you'll be back to the Virgin Islands." And I'm like, "Why would you say that?" Right. It's like, well, you're only going to New Jersey. My husband's like, you don't know. New Jersey has everything.
Yeah.
Like you're 20 minutes from the city. You're an hour from New York. You're an hour from the mountains. You're an hour from the shore.
You got snow. You got the beach.
You got everything. You have every season.
I never understand. I'm not like, I don't have a Jersey tattoo or anything like that.
No.
I never understand how people make fun of New Jersey, like, oh, this. I'm like, dude, you got all four seasons.
Yeah.
You're literally like in the hub of anything. You can go to New York City. You can go all over the place. And like, I don't know. I love it.
I think it's why so many people are coming from New York and PA. Like, I really
because you can still get that without getting that 24 hours.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Okay, what about like podcasts, virtual mentors, anything like that? What kind of stuff are you into? Are you like a Tony Robbins, rah kind of person, or are you,
I kind of find
classical
myself
music?
like I want to buy into all of that, and I think the energy is amazing, and I really think that it's so important to have strong people in your life that know you well. I really find that having a mentorship in this business is so important. It really, because they know you, they know your weaknesses, they know your strengths. Tony Robbins is great, but he doesn't know me personally.
Sure.
I would love if he did. I would love to bounce some stuff by him. But I have some really strong, particularly women in my life that will call me on my stuff, tell me to put my big girl pants on, tell me, no, you're not overreacting to this,
right.
Or kind of like, I pride myself on taking advice. So if you can shut up long enough to listen, I really feel like those are who I go to specifically when I need, hey, I run this by you kind of scenario.
Yeah. I think it's real important. We talked about I have 6 daughters. And I try to tell them all the time to find a really strong woman. Like, don't get me wrong, I always want to help. I always want to have my input. But I know damn sure that I see things differently than females
yeah.
do. Like there is something to the Earth and Venus or Earth and Mars, whatever book it was. So like it's really important, especially in business, because you will encounter certain obstacles that other men won't. So it's important to have strong women in your life that you can talk to know, like, I don't know what it's like to be talked down to because someone thinks I'm a ditzy blonde or a pretty girl or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's important. Do you have those kind of people that you can go, hey, I got to bounce this?
For sure. And I think also like having people outside your industry as well as within your industry is super important. My mom is an amazing, like, someone that I looked up to for years as a mentor, as an entrepreneur. She's started her own business. Now she convinced the government to pay for her bachelor's, then her master's, and now she teaches. My mother teaches stress management. Wow. So as far as like stress and taking it on and how to handle it, like there's really no better person to go to than someone that is currently teaching that at Rowan.
Hello. Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
I have to. My daughter's a senior at Rowan.
Oh, she may. It might be a core class for her, depending on her major.
That's awesome. She's an education major, a teacher. So
if anybody needs that, it's teachers
do, for sure.
God bless, because I could never. I mean, really, teachers do not get enough credit for what they do.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the future. Give me some. Let's move ourselves ahead. Man, every time I say it now, 2026. I can't believe that word even comes out of my mouth.
No.
Let's go 2 years ahead in the future, and let's talk about some things that you're going to check off your goal sheet or your vision board. What are you going to accomplish in the next 2 years? What are you looking for?
So number one, I like, especially being a new mom, it's super important to me to try to find that elusive work-life balance. It
doesn't exist.
I know. I'm like, it's like the limit. It's like Mean Girls, right? Like the limit does not exist.
Yes.
So trying to work on that is super important to me. I didn't know motherhood was going to hit me in such a strong way. I thought I was going to have a baby and then show a house like the next day. And I had a lot going on at the time when I had her. But finding that balance, I think, is super important. And also, like, finding your tribe, I think, is so important as well. Whether it be what you're going, like, from a client standpoint. Like, I'm coming from a place where a lot of my clients, were like lead based. So if I connected with them, great. Like, you innately find some of your people just from that. But finding more of, I would love to do some more business in closer to home for me.
Yeah.
When I first got into real estate, I thought wherever your office was dictated where you did business.
Right.
And in the meantime, I've done business like as far north as like almost Trenton and as far south as the Shore. So I would love to get a little bit more established in my neighborhood as I grow as a mom and she starts getting into like kiddie groups and pre-K and all that kind of stuff.
Right,
I would love to have a little bit more of an established base in Gloucester County. That would be like what my goal is for that.
I like it. It's crazy. I grew up in Camden County, but I moved to Gloucester County like 20 years ago. It's right next to each other. And people would say, oh, yeah, it's completely different.
Oh, 100%.
Gloucester County and Camden County.
100%.
Sure. All right, now we're going to go with your personal question. Music. Because we're not going sports.
I could talk Eagles all day.
Go. No, that's okay. I don't want to talk
but we
Eagles.
don't have to. No,
I'm
nobody
gonna cry.
wants to.
I'll cry if we talk
Nobody
Eagles
wants to
right now. You can have any musical band, person, singer, performer, anyone come to your house this Friday night and play two songs. Who would the group or performer or person be, and what would the two songs be that you want to hear them sing?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard. I grew up listening to like everything. When I was in the car with my mom as a kid, it's like we're listening to Oldies 98 because you can put on what you want in your car when you're old enough.
Yeah.
That is so tough. I mean, call me cliche, but I do have to say I think Taylor Swift is such a talented artist.
Okay.
I think there's something to be said
for
it's
okay.
Like writing your own music and performing it and that whole vibe. I think it's a lot. I mean, so we'll say. Also, I love Pink. There's so many. I love Pink, and they're both like PA people.
Yeah,
so they're both like they're both right in our backyard.
Yeah.
So I love Raise Your Glass by Pink. Like, I always think that's such a fun song. Taylor, she has so many. I don't even know if I could pick one. I'd have to pick like a group, like a conglomeration of three or something into one Swiftie song.
Make her do like a greatest hits.
Exactly.
Right.
No, right. That's oh my God, that's a great question though.
Yeah. make you think a little bit. And you can also, like, I believe music and sports are what really dictate people's lives. You know, like, I can hear songs, and if I'm listening to the radio and I hear the Go-Go's, We Got the Beat, I instantaneously go back to being 5 years old in my mom's Toyota. So I love that stuff.
No, same.
Sarah, thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks so much for having me.
We will be right back with our next guest on Mr. Mortgage's Neighborhood.